So today I want to go through a few more points at the last part of chapter 13. And next on this class on Thursday, we'll move on to chapter 14. So one of the things that we're talking about is emes. Emes is the emet, is the truth. Now, when you talk about the truth, how do you define what's the truth? And how do we see in a factual way what's the truth? So the rabbis tell us, what is the definition of truth? Something that continues to be strong all the time, something that doesn't fluctuate, something that doesn't get weaker over time. That's where you see the truth. So the Torah is called Torah's Emes, the Torah of truth. The Torah never changed. The Torah is always intact. And the Torah is the reason why we are here, how we survived, and how we are able to maintain our identity, and how we're able to have inspiration and to give guidance to give the Torah that guides us and gives us joy and happiness. And even for the nations of the world, it says that we're supposed to be a light to the nations. Why did the nations respect us? Those who do, because of the Torah. So that's called emes. That's something that's always functioning and working and it's impacting, making a big impact. That's emes. Something that stops once in a while and it's not continuous, doesn't continue. It doesn't have continuity. That's not emes. So since Hashem created the world until this very day, today, Sunday morning, in May 23rd, we have to remember that it's an ongoing process that Hashem is putting into motion His strength and His holiness and His energy. And each one of us, by learning Torah, we are connected with Hashem's emes. And that's why even when a Jew person leaves this world, the Rambam says even Goyim who are righteous, Chasidi Umas Ha'olam, the pious Goyim of the world who do good deeds and have faith, they also have a share in the world to come. So death does not disconnect us. It's just, on the contrary, it brings us to another level, another dimension, and it continues. We continue to go from strength to strength. Every day we get closer to Hashem, and it's ongoing. So that's why it's emes. So for people like us, we are here, thank God, and we're alive, and we are blessed to be able to perform mitzvot here and learn Torah here today. We have to know how lucky we are, how blessed we are that the Hashem is giving us the opportunity from our perspective, from our position, which is so tiny and insignificant. If you want to compare yourself to the whole system of creation, we're less than a speck of sand. And yet Hashem says that this little tiny creature, which is the truth, how we are so tiny and so insignificant, but yet we bring Hashem happiness. Why? Because it's the emes. And emes does not depend on how big or how small something is. It's all about the essence. And that's what he discusses here also. This is the second point that he says here, that a person should understand that in every single Jew inside there's emes. Where do you see this in a practical way? It's many times you meet people who are not observant, they don't go to shul, they didn't eat kosher, they don't keep Shabbos, and yet they have a burning neshama, they have a soul searching, they have an identity. Deep down, they're proud to be a Jew. And in certain occasions, their Jewishness, their Jewish identity comes out. And even though it was hidden and covered up, with clutter for many decades. But finally it comes out because that's called emes. It never ends. There's countless stories of people who were far, very far from the Torah. They even married outside of the faith and had families, and yet they wanted to be buried in a Jewish cemetery. Or they did. They gave tzedakah to the Jewish causes, and they used to come in once in a while on Yom Kippur for Yizkor, even though he wasn't observant. But some connection they had, and we're talking about intelligent people. I remember Rabbi Weberman used to tell us that there was a chief police here in Miami Beach years back, and he wasn't an observant Jew. And he went once to visit Israel, and he went to the Kotel, to the Western Wall, and he came back. He told Rabbi Weberman that he cried like a baby. So Rabbi Weberman asked him, "Why did you cry like a baby? You don't know, you don't really know what's the Torah. You don't study. You're not observant. What went into you? What got into you? What happened? What triggered this tremendous outcry, this outpour of your soul?" He says, "I don't know. I cannot explain it. I don't have a rational, logical explanation." That's the emes. That's it. It doesn't matter if you understand it logically or intellectually. The truth is the truth. Another thing we know about truth, that the truth will prevail. Something that's not truthful, it won't last long, even in our standards. For sure, from Hashem's perspective, only something that's truthful lasts forever. But even in the human condition and our standards of society, it's true. You can get away with some lies, but sooner or later, the lies will be exposed. As the Rebbe used to repeat many times from the Rebbe Marash, from the Rebbe Shmuel, the fourth Chabad Rebbe, he used to talk to the Hasidim and say to them, "Who are you fooling? You fooling yourself? I mean, because he was trying to tell the Hasidim to become more sincere and more righteous and strict on themselves. And he would say, "Who are you guys fooling? You're fooling yourself. You're not fooling people around you, because people know if you're full of bluff or you're truthful. So who are you? You're not fooling Hashem. You're not fooling people. Sooner or later, people figure it out. Who are you fooling? You're fooling yourself." He says, "Is it a kunz? Is it some big deal to fool a fool? You're fooling yourself, and you know that you're fooling yourself. You know that you're full of baloney, and you're still going along with that baloney as if no one realizes. But you know that people realize. So the whole thing is a joke, and it's not just a joke. It becomes silly and very foolish." So we're going back to the Tanya. These are this is an inspiration that we have to remember, that when it comes to the true essence of every Jew, the Rebbe said that we should go out and reach out to people. They should do mitzvahs. Every man should put on tefillin. You should ask a person, "Did you put on tefillin today?" Even if he said, "I just finished eating in McDonald's." That's his problem. But that doesn't take away from the tefillin. And he explained that there were many people that they put on tefillin, and later on this mitzvah brought them to do another mitzvah. But if you don't do one mitzvah, you'll never start the process. The many stories of people who are walking down Manhattan on Fifth Avenue, and the Chabad Bachurim, the young men, the boys had a mitzvah mobile. They called it a mitzvah tank, and they asked someone, "Are you Jewish?" And the person said no. And then a few minutes later, they came back to the mitzvah mobile, and they said, "Okay, I want to put on tefillin." So they said, "But you just told us 5-10 minutes ago you're not Jewish." He says, "Yeah, but my daughter was with me, and she really reprimanded me Why did I say I'm not Jewish? He said that he told his daughter he doesn't want to get involved with these people. He doesn't want to go and pray. He doesn't want to be bothered. They're a cult. He doesn't understand what they want from him. And the daughter said, but you said a lie. You didn't say the truth. They asked you if you're Jewish and you denied it. That's no good. So out of shame to his daughter, he said, you're right. I have to admit I made a mistake. She said, okay, so let's go back. Let him ask you again. They'll ask you again if you're Jewish. Let's see what you can do. So he came by and they asked him if he's Jewish, and he said yes. They said, would you like to put on tefillin? He said, not really. They said, why not? It's good for you. And his daughter encouraged him. And little do you know that later on, this person became more and more observant, more and more connected through the influence of that initial interaction with the tefillin, because he didn't say the emes and it bothered her, and by the end, that emes, that truth feeling and true connection with Hashem penetrated and it blew his mind that he had to go back, even though it was against his desire or his nature. He didn't want to go. But in the true essence of the nature of a Jew, he wants to do the right thing. And this is what the Rambam writes when it comes to forcing a person to do a mitzvah or giving a divorce to his wife. So the halacha, the law is that you could force him through the Jewish court until he says, Reitzani, I want to do it. I want to give the divorce. Or I want to bring the offering. Even though he only says it because he was forced to do it. So the Rambam asks, but it doesn't make sense, because if he only says, I want to do it, Reitzani, I want to bring this offering or give the divorce because they forced him, that means he really doesn't want to do it. So why is that valid? So the answer is, the Rambam answers, because the truth is, and in the essence of every Jew, he wants to do the right thing, he or she. It's only the Yetzer Hara, the evil inclination, that's holding back, that's pushing the other way. So the moment you're forced to say, Reitzani, I want to do the right thing, that's not a coercion, that's not a forceful expression. That's actually the essence comes out, the truth, the emes. When he says, I don't want to put on tefillin, when he says, I don't want to do a mitzvah, that's not the truth. That's just an excuse from the Yetzer Hara. Yetzer Hara is not the true essence of the Jew. And the Rebbe once said, if you meet a Jew and you ask him to do a mitzvah, and he says, I don't want to do it, you should tell him nicely, it's not true. You really want to do the mitzvah, but your Yetzer Hara is blocking you. And he's jumped in front of you and he's telling you to say that you don't want, that you're not interested. But truth is, you're very interested and you know exactly that it's good for you. This is our Jewish identity. This is our essence. And this is why we're here, and how we were able to survive all the centuries of exile and oppressions and anti-Semitism was because we held on to the Torah, which is emes. The next thing we're going to talk about how he connects it to Yaakov Avinu. He says that this is the midas emes, midas shel Yaakov, hanikra briach hatichoin, hamavriach min hakotza lakotza, mereim hat mailos madregus hat seif kol dagen. That in the Mishkan, when the Jews had the sanctuary in the desert, it's called the tabernacles, they had boards. And those boards were standing up. How do you keep it from falling? So they had sockets on the bottom, silver sockets, but that wasn't enough. They also had poles that went through on the side, on the outside of the boards, on the top, in the middle, and the bottom. So on the top and the bottom, it only went to a certain measurement, only one side, let's say, from the north to south. The next one from east to west had another bolt, another pole that kept it together. But when it came to the Bria Chaticha, in the middle pole, there was a miracle that it went through and through and through. And Kabbalah and the Zohar and Chassidus says that this middle pole, that's the midah, that's the attribute of Yaakov Avinu. Yaakov Avinu represents emes. Avraham Avinu represents chesed, kindness. Yitzchak represents gevura, severity, and discipline. And Yaakov represents rachmanus, compassion, and emes. Like it says in the pasuk, Titen emes liYaakov. Why is Yaakov connected with emes? Because Avraham is chesed, that's kindness. Yitzchak is gevura, it's the opposite of kindness, like severity. It's not kindness, it's harshness. And what blends the two? Yaakov, compassion. For instance, if your child or your student is making trouble, so the first time you're kind to them. Second time you say, listen, I'm giving you a warning. Don't do this, because otherwise you're going to end up in trouble. You'll get punished. So that's the blending, the chesed and the gevura. How do you blend it? Through rachmanus, which is the attribute of Yaakov Avinu. So that's like the middle pole that goes through and through. It went through all three sides of the boards. So the Alter Rebbe is using this as an expression and as an example of what it means that it has no limits. That's why when the Torah, Hashem gives Yaakov Avinu a bracha, he says, your offsprings, your children, will be like multiply like the earth of the ground. And they're going to spread out in all directions. Yom of Akedma, west and east, Tzefain of Negba, north and south. Why does Yaakov get that bracha? Because Yaakov was the one who built the Jewish family in a big way. He had 12 children. More, he has a daughter also, but 12 tribes. And from him came the Jewish people. When he came down to Egypt, it came down altogether with 70 souls, 70 family members. And from there, they grew and grew. And this is all attributed to Yaakov's, his contribution, that he was given this bracha of Nachla Bli Mitzarim, that it says also that the third Beis HaMikdash corresponds to Yaakov Avinu. The first Beis HaMikdash was in this merit of Avraham Avinu. The second, that's why there was a lot of good things that happened during the first Beis HaMikdash until the Jews decided that they took things for granted and they stopped obeying the Torah, and many times they were punished for that. The second Beis HaMikdash was the schut of Yitzchak. That's why there was a lot of turmoil at the time of the second Beis HaMikdash. It wasn't full of roses. A lot of conflict, a lot of aggravation. The third Beis HaMikdash is going to be in the merit of Yaakov Avinu, which is Nachal Bli Matzarim. It has no limit. That's why the third Beis HaMikdash will never be destroyed. So the Alter Rebbe is explaining here that every Jew, since they have in their DNA a little bit of Avram, and a little bit of Yitzchak, and a little bit of Yaakov, and Yaakov represents emes, and this emes, no matter where you are, even if you spread out in the four corners of the world, eventually we will all be ingathered. But even through Mashiach, and speedily in our days. But even before that, we have the ability to connect with Hashem, and through the sechut, through the merit of Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov specifically, they were able to have emes in us. So it's not something that you have to create. All you have to do is reveal the emes in you. And there was also another point, let me look in my notes, that every person is on a special level. And number 5, we cannot be equally even. We're not equal. We compensate each other. Because he says over here, he's talking about the Alter Rebbe here in the Tanya, and the end of the chapter, that a person might say, I daven, I pray, I feel wonderful, I feel very inspired, but afterwards, it fades, it dissipates, it disappears. So where's the emes? He says it is emes, because any time during the day you could go back to your mind, to your feelings, and you could awaken the love to Hashem whenever you want, because you have the remnant, the impact of the davening that you davened in the morning will give you the strength that even during the day when you're not praying, you'll be able to be strong. That's called emes, that it's with you. You just have to activate it. You have to trigger that button that you should go back to your memory chip and say, wait a minute, I davened today, so I have the power that I davened before. But he says every person on a different level. A person shouldn't say, I'm not going anywhere. I'm not accomplishing much. Look at me. Look at the next person. Compared to another person I'm on a lower level, so I feel like a loser. I feel like I didn't accomplish much, and I'm insignificant. So the Alter Rebbe says it's a big mistake. Every person Hashem judges you according to your capacity. It's not a matter of comparing yourself to another person. He says, ish kefi madrigosan. Every person according to their level. Every person has a different capacity, a different level of attention span, how much you have the diligence to stay focused on something. So there's a lot of issues that have to be taken in consideration, which only Hashem knows. So he doesn't judge us and say, hey, why aren't you like this person? Every person is different. Of course, if you have a teacher, you're expected, or a mentor, to try to learn from them good examples. But no one's going to tell you, Hashem is not going to demand from you, you have to be exactly like another person. Because every person's upbringing and every person's surroundings and every person's capabilities and talents and weaknesses are different. But do your best. And there's a famous saying from the big tzaddik, Reb Zusha Ma'aneh, that he was one of the rabbis who gave the recommendation to the Tanya. And his name is printed in the beginning of the Tanya, that he gave a letter confirming that the Alter Rebbe went to him that he should give a recommendation. So he writes, he said that when Hashem is not going to say to him, Zusha, why weren't you like Avram Avinu, Yitzchak, or Yaakov? Hashem is going to say, Zusha, why weren't you like Zusha should be? The Rebbe used to say it many times. Hashem is not going to ask us, why weren't you like the Lubavitcher Rebbe? Why weren't you like another big tzaddik? Or why aren't you like Rabbi Smith? You can't be like Rabbi Smith. Rabbi Smith is who he is, and his upbringing and his way of thinking and how he does the mitzvahs, that's very special for him. But be who you could be. Live up to your potential. How does one do that? So like we spoke on Thursday, that this is very important, that we always nurture from each other. We learn from each other. And we give each other strength. So that we can do. We can encourage each other and inspire each other by communicating good thoughts, good ideas, happiness, and good examples. But by the end of the day, each one of us has to make their own cheshbon hanefesh, their own soul accounting, and say, according to what I know and according to my way of thinking and how my circumstances, am I doing enough, or I can do a little bit more? And the answer is we could always go do a little bit more, usually. No one's going to say that they're maxed out. They're doing their maximum. We can do a little bit more. But in order for us to be motivated to do more for Hashem, for this, you have to learn Chassidus and believe in it and ask Hashem to give you the strength. Because many times the nature of people is to be complacent and not to demand from themselves so much. The Rebbe, for instance, he was always telling people that you could do more. And since you could do more, you have the capacity to do more, you're obligated to do more. Otherwise, you're wasting the energy. Hashem gave you extra strength and extra talent and extra blessings. So utilize it. And he quoted from the Midrash says a person who has $100, 100 money, his appetite, his desires to have 200. When he gets 200, he doesn't think anymore about 300. He jumps to 400. Why? Because now he has a bigger appetite, a bigger capacity. Now he sees things in a different way. So each one of us, we should make a soul searching and a soul accounting and an inventory today. And we should ask ourselves, am I the same person that I was a year ago or two years ago? Or I'm not. Today I'm on a higher level. Today I have a better understanding, a deeper appreciation of who I am and my connection with Hashem and my outlook on the world and the urgency to do more mitzvot and to appreciate life better and to treat another person nicer. So you see in yourself that you have grown from last year or from 2 years ago or from 3 years ago. You became a better person, hopefully. That's the way it should be. So if that's the reality, then from here as we grow from today, we should also take the strength from the words of the Tanya, and we have to know that every one of us is, Hashem created us different, but yet he wants us to learn from each other and inspire each other. And as I told you before, that the rabbis tell us in the Gemara, that Chanina said, I learned a lot from my teachers, and even more from my teachers I learned from my friends, and even more from my friends I learned from my students. So the rabbi was humble enough to recognize that he was able to learn more from his students because he was willing to listen to the students and to understand them and to relate to them. He didn't say, I'm the teacher, how can I learn from my students? These are my students. They have to learn from me. That's true. But Mikol Malamda Iskalti, it says from every person you can learn something good. And if you pay attention to other people, you'll be surprised how many wonderful lessons and examples you could learn from other people if you're humble and you're sensitive and you're willing to open your eyes and implement it in your life. It's a blessing. As we learned today in the Yom Yom, that the Rebbe Rashab, the fifth Rebbe, the Shalom Dever of Chabad, said that you should cherish when someone gives you constructive criticism, because this will bring you to true heights, to Goiva Amiti, to the emes, again, to the emes, it'll bring you to a higher level without fooling yourself, without kidding yourself. You'll realize that you need to correct something. Instead of getting angry at the other person, you should say thank you, and be thankful that the other person is trying to help you become a better person. Once again, I want to wish everyone a good week.